doing this show for all of you. My name is Aamer Naseer. The show is called Retro 89, and it's I'm quite excited about today's show because I have a guest, Omar Shahid Hamid. And if you haven't heard of Omar Shahid Hamid, then you will get to know him much better because he's going to be joining us at 7:30. He's of course written some great books. His debut book was The Prisoner. He wrote The Spinner's Tale, then The Party Worker, and his last book, which came out in 2019, if I am not mistaken, was The Fix. Very different from his other books. But he's going to be joining us at 7:30. That's what he told me. 7:30 should be here. He'll have his own playlist also, so I've got his songs also ready. So it's going to be interesting talking to Omar Shahid Hamid today on Retro 89. Yes, sir, it's 7:34, and I am joined by Omar Shahid Hamid, who is going to be with me all the way till 9 o'clock. Omar, you know what? It's great to have you.
It's great to be here with the Dean of FM radio.
The Dean, my friend. You're too kind, my friend. But just before you came in, and I was talking about cricket, and I also understand that you're a big cricket buff.
I am. I still play, actually.
I know you play. You play every week or what?
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday?
Yeah.
And but no, with plastic ball or cork ball?
No. Who plays with a plastic ball? Only the real stuff.
Only the real stuff. I know, but I hadn't played for years, and I used to play a lot. And if you haven't played for, let's say, about 10, 15 years, and you're going there and facing the new ball, it's scary.
It does, yeah. It's you've got to sort of wake up real quick.
Yeah, you've got to wake up. I don't know if you're following New Zealand, England.
I just saw the highlights before coming on. Yeah, England got a bit of a thrashing.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, England didn't have people like Ben Stokes and Jeffrey Archer and everything, but same time the Kiwis also missing.
Yeah, I think the Kiwis, it's a nice lineup going into the World Test final.
Yeah. So what do you think, how are we going to do in England? Our problem is batting, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's a very fragile batting lineup.
And the problem is every time that if you're late watching Pakistan bat and you switch on the TV, invariably you open it to 20 for 4 or 16 for 2. So
my problem is that every time I switch it on, they seem to be doing fine until I switch it on. And then the 20 minutes that I'm watching, they lose 4 wickets.
But I thought that was with me. So 4 plus 4 is 8 wickets gone.
Yeah.
But Omar, you know what? We can go on talking about cricket because I know you're a big cricket buff. But we're here to talk about your books because, and this is going to be a first, by the way, is that me, Aamer Naseer, I'm going to be interrogating a police officer. So this is going to be a first, isn't it? It's going to be fun. No, but it's great to have you, Omar. You've written some super books. We're here to talk about your new book, which is Betrayal. Tell us about it.
It's something different. It's a spy thriller. It's out next week. And I've tried to do a very sort of Le Carre, Forsyth type of thing. Very sort of grim, less James Bond, more sort of grim, dusty offices and things like that. But it's also much more international. There's a lot of place where you spend a lot of time. There's a lot of it based in France.
À Paris? Ah bon?
Yeah.
Ah bon?
Yeah.
Interesting. What was the inspiration for this book?
I always thought it would be great to do a sort of Cold War type of book in a local setting. And as I said, I drew inspiration from all these sorts of writers like Forsyth or Le Carre. And I think it's great. You should see it next week. I think you'll enjoy it.
I definitely will. But we'll come back to Betrayal. Let's go back like 2014. You come out with The Prisoner, which was your debut novel, and I read that. Great stuff. One of these books, somebody approached you for a movie also.
A couple, actually. So there's been a lot of work around The Prisoner. And I'm hoping that the team who's putting it together, I think they'll hopefully be going into a shooting schedule in the next couple of months, COVID and lockdown and things like that permitting. Yeah. And I think that's good because they're trying to do something that's, it'll be shot completely in Pakistan, taking those sorts of themes, the gritty noir sort of themes that the book has. And I think it's something that, hasn't really been done here before.
I'm a big noir fan, by the way. Huge. But I tell you what, we need to play some music, and there's lots to talk about. Your books, and of course, Betrayal, inspiration. I want to ask you some questions like snacks that you eat when you're writing, when you get into that. I need to know that. But I do understand that you're a bit of a romantic also, because the choice of list of songs that you've taken out and some for your wife, I think that shows a side of yours which is...
I'm a romantic who's stuck in 1989, I think.
In 1989? Well, you've got one song which you're dedicating to Summer, so I hope she's listening.
I hope so too, yeah. I told her to download the app if she couldn't get the radio working.
All right, so why don't you announce the song that you're dedicating to her?
I Drove All Night, the Roy Orbison version.
Super choice, Roy Orbison. This is going out to Summer. I hope you enjoy it. Stick around. I'm with Omar Shahid Hamid. Don't go anywhere. Okay, question numéro uno has already come. Is Aisha saying, can you please ask Omar the cast for Prisoner? I'm not too sure if the cast is finalized, is it?
I think they've finalized most of the cast, but it's still under wraps. So I shall have to take the fifth on that one. You'll have to wait a little bit longer. But I think they've got some big guns. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when they do announce it.
Oh, I cannot wait, my friend. So, Omar, let's go back. I'm sure everybody, the listeners, want to know that when you're a police officer, and then you write. So when was the first time that you actually realized that I want to be a writer?
I kind of stumbled onto it. I never particularly had any, sort of writing genes in me or anything like that. But it started off as something that I started doing to kind of work off some work frustrations, and it just snowballed into books. And publishers thought that it was. They were decent enough to get published, so thanks to them.
And that was it. There was no looking back.
That was it. There was no looking. Now, in fact, it's almost like an addiction. So I need to write.
You need to write
all the time. Yeah.
So how does it work? Like, what is your typical work schedule when you're writing a book or you're trying to finish a project?
So a book will, on average, take about 2 years from the time that you kind of put together the concept to the time it comes out. And in those 2 years, there'll be periods where you're doing, a lot of stuff, like you'll be doing 10,000, 20,000 words over a weekend, and there'll be months where you won't be writing at all. So you've got to make sure to balance the sort of the days when you're writing and the leaner days. But you kind of work within that, and you kind of work to craft the characters, to craft the storyline, and it comes together after that.
So tell me, Omar, when you're sitting down and you have an idea, what comes to you first? Is it the plot, or is it the characters?
It can be either. An idea for a book can be sparked off by something relatively minor, or it can be, like a story that you read in the press or something you come across in a book or a movie. Yeah. And the concept flows from there, and then slowly I start building characters around it and building a frame of a storyline around it as well. So it's initially quite an intensive process.
But I suppose a lot of it also comes from the line of work that you're in.
My first 3 books did, obviously they were, especially as a new writer, it's a lot easier to write what you know. Mm-hmm. And I used a lot of it in The Prisoner, The Spinner's Tale, and The Party Worker on either my own experiences or experiences of others in the department, or, stories and all that you've heard of in the police, and wove those into sort of narrative tales. The Fix was obviously different, and Betrayal is different. I've wanted to move away from the typical sort of, police thing, and wanted to explore a few new things.
Yeah, I'm going to come back and talk about The Fix, but I need to play a song, and this is, you could have dedicated this to your wife, by the way. This is, Keith Urban, but the song is retro. Keith Urban, of course, is not retro, but he's a great singer. He's super talented.
Yes.
So I'm going to play you Keith Urban doing a song of the Bee Gees. It's called To Love Somebody.
Okay.
And, but you need to keep your headphones on so you can hear the song, because it's quite wicked. All right, this is Love Somebody Keith Urban. Boy, that's Keith Urban. Now tell me, was that a cracker version?
That was a good pick.
I love that. So maybe you could have dedicated that one to your wife.
I was not aware of this version.
You weren't aware of it? Next time you're on my show, I'll pick the songs for you.
All right.
How's that, okay?
Well, I think I've got a pretty decent list.
No, you've got a great list. Actually, no, I'm talking about romance point of view. No, you've got a super list. I love the list that you've taken out because you've got the Beatles, you've got Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, who was very much part of Sam Giancana's
The Mob.
The Mob, absolutely. But speaking of The Mob, we're going to come back to The Betrayal and your new book. I mean, you wrote The Prisoner, then you wrote Spinner's Tale, then you wrote Party Work, and of course, as you just mentioned, that it was quite similar. And then you write The Fix, and a lot of people felt that just to make it a little more real, you could have, instead of a female protagonist, taken a male, and because we know that these kind of things exist. But so your reason for?
I just thought that, when you combine the story of match fixing in cricket, which was this tremendous story on its own, it's a classic sort of tale, morality tale. And on top of that, if you add in this element of the women's team, because again, the women's team in Pakistan is a team that has overcome so many odds to even get acknowledged. And I thought that, if you kind of combine the two stories of, there's this whole issue of match fixing, and you add on the bit of this women's team with these young women who sort of fought to gain recognition. They're superb athletes, and then they get hit by match fixing. I just thought it made for a much better tale.
And I think it'd probably make a great movie also.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It should be. But it's interestingly that, and match fixing, and you look at the darker side of sports with people selling out and all. It's obviously been going on for many years. I mean, you look at boxing.
Yeah.
You look at people like
the World Series 1919.
The World Series 1919. There you go, my friend. No, but the murky world of boxing. I mean, until today, I refuse to believe it because I'm probably the biggest Muhammad Ali fan this side of Asia. I own just about every book written on him. I've seen all his fights from Doug Jones, which was his first fight. And till today, they say that the second fight that he lost, that Phantom Punch, is when Sonny Liston took a dive because he
sold out.
He sold out to the mob. So it's and I don't know. I mean, I don't know how deep it is in other stuff like football or other sports or tennis or so I mean, so it's of course something that exists in the world of sports. But let's come back to The Betrayal. This book is out now, so we can go buy it.
It hits stores next week.
Okay.
So I think it's done with the printers, and it's going to hit outlets next week. So hopefully you can get in and get your copy next week.
Pick it up. Okay, so we'll be talking more to a great show. Aamer, my man, can you please play Thunder Road by Bruce Springsteen or Last Dance by Mary Jane by Tom Petty? Ahmed Niz, you know what? My guest, Omar Shahid Hamid's already got 2 songs of Bruce Springsteen. So if you give me another one, I will definitely play it for you. But in the meantime, this is the one you wanted, The Beatles.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Tell me about why Yesterday.
It's a very sort of, it pulls at your heartstrings, I think.
It does. It does. Yeah. The Beatles, Yesterday. This is Omar Shahid's playlist. This is Retro 89. Folks, my name is Aamer Naseer. Do not go anywhere. I'm on till 9 o'clock. A lot of people said, ask him these questions. So I scribbled them down.
Go for it.
I have this paper that I scribbled down some of the, your personal favorite from all your books and why?
That's like picking a favorite child, isn't it?
I know, but that's one of the questions. You've got to answer that.
Every book is a journey. Every book is, you learn something new, you kind of grow. I think that if you look at, when I look at myself from when I wrote The Prisoner down to Betrayal now, I find an evolution in my writing. Can't pick a favorite one because they also represent different moods and different times in my life.
Okay, so let me make it easier for you. Your favorite book.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's a book that I often turn back to when it's kind of always been an aspirational goal for me to write like that, or rather to create a world like that. And that's The Godfather by Mario Puzo. I always, that was when I started writing. I wanted to do something where, like he had done, where you create this very real world of characters and the mafia and, the sort of Italian-American community.
Do you know they never use the word mafia in the book?
They never do.
They never used it once because they were told when they went to whoever it was at that time, Campino, whoever, or Bonanos, they said one condition: you cannot use the word the mafia.
Yeah.
And but it was. It's you funny mentioned it. It's one of the movies that I have to see at least once or twice a year, and every time I watch it, it's just flawless. I mean, I look at it. I even look at the extras. When you see in a road thing, you see some people just thrown. It's just flawless. Everything, each character. Nino Rota's music to start off with, that haunting Speak Softly, which of course never had lyrics, it just had the music. Andy Williams put the words in. But they're making a movie called The Offer, which is on the production of The Godfather.
Really? I didn't know
they're making a movie. It's called The Offer, where somebody's playing Francis Ford Coppola, somebody's going to be playing Marlon Brando. So they're making a 10-episode series, which I cannot.
That sounds great. But I'll tell you, it's also interesting because I saw it recently with my son, and it's amazing to see this movie through the eyes of a different generation.
Suleiman, right? Let's say hello to Suleiman. Yeah, Suleiman, absolutely.
And it's just fascinating how it's timeless and how, a different generation picks out nuances that you hadn't picked out.
Yeah, and I actually read that they were actually Lloyd. Yes, I've got your reminder of The Whole of the Moon by the Waterboys, my friend. I will definitely play it. There was as they make remakes, and I read, which is horrible actually. I some movies they just shouldn't touch. Like they want to do another new Scarface, and I think that's terrible. To Al Pacino. But there were talks of where they wanted for a brand new audience, like let's say for Suleiman or people a little older, for The Godfather. And I thought that's just criminal. I mean, Godfather, you just leave it. You leave it there,
So, yeah.
Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, Consigliere, James Caan. You don't make a remake of it.
I don't think you need to reinterpret it.
No,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Some more questions coming up, but the next song is going out for young Suleiman. He says it's one of his favorites and gets his head bopping on it. This is Bruce Springsteen with Dancing in the Dark. And that's going out to Suleiman. And boy, I mean, you've done well with letting your son know about all these movies. I mean, he knew who Johnny Fontaine was.
He did know Johnny Fontaine.
Johnny Fontaine. You actually made him read the book, or you watched the movie?
I made him read the book first, and then we watched the movie together.
Wow, that is brilliant. I mean, that's fantastic. In fact, I've got So coming back to some more of questions that some of them said, please do ask him, is that which living author would Omar Shahid Hamid love to meet?
Ooh, that is a tough one. Maybe Jeffrey Archer, actually.
Jeffrey Archer?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's, just because he's done such a diverse sort of, stuff. He's over his career. And with all his, having been to jail and profited off that.
Yeah. He was.
So, yeah, I think in terms of living authors, probably Jeffrey Archer, yeah.
So what are you reading right now as we speak?
I am reading, not reading fiction, something boring. I just finished a thing on the Vietnam War, history of the Vietnam War, and just kind of between books right now.
I'll tell you, one of the best Vietnam War movies that I've seen is The Deer Hunter.
Yes.
Robert De Niro.
And Christopher Walken, right?
Christopher Walken. Oh, he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, there's that scene where he's sitting by the window and he's crying, but the tears are not coming down, and the camera is right on his. He's such a super actor. But it's incredible. The Americans, only the Americans can do that. They know what they've done there, but yet they make movies about it also. It's incredible.
My personal favorite is Platoon, Oliver Stone's Platoon.
Platoon, Oliver Stone, super movie. Yeah, that's a great movie also. So hang on. Wish Living, there was another one that they said, please do not forget to ask him from your favorite. Yes, favorite snack that Umar has when he's actually getting into a project.
So this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to write while lying in bed. Which is very unprofessional, but I always do that. And it's a toss-up between jalapeno-flavored Cheetos and Nimco's chili chips.
You are kidding. Nimco chili. You actually do that when you're writing a book.
Yeah. And I find that the more you're writing, you're burning calories, but because you're using your brain or whatever, you feel you need the snacks. You have the munchies.
All right, my friend. You know what? Suleiman just said that made me an offer that you couldn't refuse. So I'm going to play you Al Martino. And Al Martino, by the way, Suleiman, is the guy who played Johnny Fontaine in the movie. And they say that that's based on Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra didn't like it when they said that, by the way. I mean, you know what happened. We'd actually come back and talk about The Godfather because it's interesting, some of the stuff there. This is Al Martino, Speak Softly. And if you've just tuned in, my guest, Umar, you can say hello.
Hi.
Okay, that's Omar Shahid Hamid, and he is, of course, a writer. He's also a police officer, and I'm the one who's questioning him right now, so that's a first. But he's written quite a few books. 2014 was his debut novel, Sherli Khan, which was The Prisoner, and which I personally find was my favorite. Then he went on in 2015 to write The Spinner's Tale. 2017 he wrote The Party Worker. 2019 he wrote The Fix, and I've got him here today, Sherli Khan, because I'm talking about his new book that is going to be out next week. It's called The Betrayal. And why is it called Betrayal?
It's a spy thriller, and it's about this world of, where you have the world of spooks. Nothing is quite what it seems. Everyone is out to betray everyone else, and you can't really trust anyone. And it sort of looks at what it's like to be in that sort of world of shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say they make Betrayal into a movie. Yeah. Who would you have as the actors playing the main characters?
Does this have to be sort of... actually, I haven't really thought of this one because I'm out.
Yeah. But who do you see, like...
kind of local or...
we can do both.
Right?
We can do both.
I think for the principal characters, there's in fact one of the principal characters is a retired model.
Okay, all right.
Who's sort of, whose career is finished, was very successful, but she's one of the central protagonists. If you know any...
but the problem is that if you name some models and retired, they'll say, hang on, we're not retired. How dare you actually? So, it's getting a little touchy. So I'm not going to name anybody. You want to take names? Go ahead.
I'm happy to know names.
So, so fine. But yeah, I'll on my own maybe secretly message you and give you some names, but I'm not going to say it on air. All right. So let's leave it out there. But no, let's say The Prisoner. And I love that book. Who would you have playing, which actors would you have for those characters?
So I think with The Prisoner, of the two main characters, I've always felt that Akbar Khan, who's a sort of tough guy cop in it, he gets a lot of the top billing. But for me, and I remember that when we were in discussions with the production team who's sort of got the rights to it, I said to them that, look, I know that Akbar Khan is the sort of high voltage character, but actually it's the other guy, Constantine, who's the far more subtler character, and it's the better role. I mean, any actor worth his chops would go for Constantine. And
Constantine, I understand, was based on somebody that worked in the force.
It was not based on any one particular person. It was an amalgam of a number of people that I came across. And then again, I thought that it was interesting to further wrap the character in this thing of coming from the Christian community as well, stuck in this world again of like, cops and sort of politicians and mobsters and things like that. But yeah, it wasn't any one character. It's based on a bunch of people.
Yeah. The one character that I know you're a fan of is Old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra, and you've picked out, there's a great song by the Frank Sinatra.
I have. It is a great song.
Yeah.
It's
and funny, we were talking about Frank Sinatra, and we said that, Johnny Fontaine's role is, though Frank Sinatra himself got very upset, and he said that's all rubbish.
He apparently tried to or threatened to beat up Mario Puzo somewhere.
He would get into
in a restaurant or something.
What Frank Sinatra would do that. Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin were known to the Rat Packers to be quite rough about these, because they were known to be the proteges of Sam Giancana, who was the mob boss at that time.
Yeah.
So this is Omar's song, Frank Sinatra. I hope you enjoy it. Stick around. I'm with Omar for the next 40 minutes on Retro 89. Do not go anywhere. Frank Sinatra, great choice, Omar. That was I hadn't heard that for a long time, actually. Super
It is a
choice.
great song.
Yeah, makes you go back to a certain era, or
It just makes me think about the passage of time, really.
it does. Coming back to your new book, The Betrayal. I mean, why do you think something like this, a spy thriller sort of, what hadn't been done before? How come?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we, especially in this part of the world, are kind of living in a very sort of Cold War environment. And I think there are a lot of parallels to the sort of stuff, to the Cold War sort of, 50s to the 80s between the Soviets and the Americans. And I've always wanted to kind of bring that atmosphere to life in a local setting. So, sort of things like the Berlin Wall and crossings and stuff like that, and to introduce it in a local setting, because I think a lot of those conditions do exist at present in the subcontinent. And as to why it hasn't been done before, I don't know. I mean, spy thrillers aren't easy books to write. You do need to have a degree of understanding of how that world works. Perhaps that's the reason.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's why it probably hasn't been done. And I didn't want to do a sort of, James Bond gadgets and that sort of thing. I wanted it to be a sort of real, hard-boiled sort of spy thriller. So I hope I've done that.
So the 50s and 60s, of course, and coming back to cinema, they had a string of spy movies would come out.
Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Spy Who Came In From the Cold. What a movie that was.
Richard Burton.
Oh, Richard Burton. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, super stuff. And then Karachi, Pakistan and Karachi, of course. I don't know much in Lahore with the cinema halls. Karachi would have all these cinema halls playing all these movies. I mean, they had lots of war movies, espionage movies. Hardy Kruger used to come in lots of them. Guns of Navarone, I remember, played for the longest time in Capri Cinema Halls. So I don't know if you're a war movie buff.
I am.
You are?
I just re-saw it on Netflix, actually.
Which one?
Guns of Navarone, yeah.
Again,
it gets better with age.
It gets better with age. Absolutely super movie. Do we have time for... No, I'll tell you what. We'll go to an ad break and we'll go straight to a song, The Water Boys. Lloyd, if you're listening. But hang on. Let me just quickly read a message. Hi to you and Suleiman Saab. No, Suleiman actually is his son. And the song was going through. The person who's with me, the guest, is Omar Shahid Hamid. And he's the writer. My prayers for you and the publication of Betrayal. Wish you good luck. A police guy and a writer, something very, very rare, at least where we live. I hope more police officers follow his literary steps. He's actually got a point there.
So I'll tell you an interesting story. A few months ago, this guy contacted me. He was a police officer, I think ex-NYPD guy.
Yeah.
And they have a little sort of union of police officers who are fiction writers from around the world. Wow. And they were trying to put together an anthology of short stories written by, so there'd be cops in Australia and Mexico and the US and the UK. and they contacted me saying, hey, would you like to join us in doing this anthology? So I thought it was a brilliant idea.
I thought it's a brilliant... Hang on.
And I didn't know there were that many cops writing books.
Writing books. Actually, you know what? I'm going to come back and talk about that. And that was an interesting story you told me about the police officers... book writing
Writers Club, yeah. Police Officers Writers Club, yeah.
That's incredible. But speaking of police officers who worked on books and movies, one of the greatest cop movies is Bullet, with Steve McQueen, with that famous car chase scene made in 1969, with that Ford Mustang and the Dodge Charger. But for me, the greatest has to be The French Connection with Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider.
Yeah.
And why I mentioned The French Connection is because the guy that Gene Hackman is playing is a cop called Popeye Doyle is based on a cop called Eddie Egan. And Eddie Egan is in the movie also, and he was actually helping them make the movie. The real cop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Eddie Egan. And in fact, the last scene when they're going in with the shootout, one of the cops is Eddie Egan. So they worked on, so that's what I'm saying. If they do end up making
I should get a walk-on role, huh?
You should get a walk-on role, my friend. I mean, look, if they obviously decide to, whether it's Netflix or whoever makes a movie on one of your books, because all your books are juicy enough for cinema, but including the fix, and I think the fix could be, but starting from The Prisoner, they will obviously need your help to produce and collaborate whatever they're making.
Yeah, I think, again, when I was speaking to the various parties who were interested in picking up the film rights for the book, I think the key of those books, my theory is that the potential success of any kind of film cinematic project is if the film version sticks as closely as possible to the very gritty feel of the books.
The book.
Because that way you'll bring in the ready-made audience of the people who read the books. And it'll be something that hasn't really been done
when I grow up,
certainly in a local context, to bring that, if you can create a sort of French Connection feel in the streets of Karachi while shooting The Prisoner or The Party Worker, I think that is a hot ticket if you can do that.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That is definitely... Well, speaking of the fix, now again, the fix I think would be would have a really commercial, because cricket, match fixing, that actually I'm surprised nobody's approached you for that.
Yeah, I think it's again one of those things that I suspect if the minute that one of these earlier projects kicks off and actually starts filming and all, there'll probably be more interest in some of the other projects. But again, from the point of view of the fix, it's, in my view, a fantastic project because it has very strong female characters.
Yeah.
I would think that there would be a number of female actors who would love to kind of play these strong, meaty roles, where there's a lot of character development and things like that. So
and you're looking for retired models, aren't you?
That's for Betrayal.
Sorry, that's for Betrayal. Okay, all right. We're not going to name them right now. You're playing Richard Marx.
Richard Marx.
Who are you playing this for?
It is a song that is that's really a big favorite of my son's, and actually I wasn't that much into Richard Marx. He got me into it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is for Suleiman.
This is for Suleiman, and anyone else that he may want to dedicate it to.
All right. Later on, he can tell me, and I'll take out their names. And if they're listening, then there's a shout out for them. This is Richard Marx. This is Omar Shahid Hamid with me, right here on Retro 89. What were we talking about? We talking about Djokovic.
Djokovic.
Do you think he's going to nick it?
I hope not, but I think if he takes it to
Djokovic fan.
I'm not. I'm an anyone but Djokovic person.
You're a Nadal guy.
I'm definitely a Nadal guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I liked Nadal when everyone thought Federer was cool. So I've been a Nadal guy for a long time.
But no. But I tell you what, if this guy can extend it, Djokovic, he's got the nerves. He's mentally.
Yeah, I think
tough.
if it goes to 5, he wins it.
I think he wins it by then. We still have a little time. You know what? Before we wrap up the show, we are talking to Omar Shahid Hamid about his new book that's going to be out next week, Betrayal. For upcoming budding writers, what would you advise? Let's say if they're like you, doing something else, their vocation is something else, but their passion is also writing. What advice would you give them?
I would say write, because I think one of the things that happens is that people keep second guessing themselves, thinking, oh, you know, what we're writing, we're not good enough. Why would anyone want to read this? And you'd be surprised at the number of writers who go through this process of self-doubt. And I think my biggest sort of piece of advice is, look, write whatever you want to write. Write the sort of stuff that you think you would like to read.
Yeah.
Because if you are, and usually writers are pretty avid readers, you've got a pretty good sense of what people will read. So write what you want to write. Don't try and copy what you think is trendy or whatever. Play to your strengths and just do it.
Yeah. And we've got a great crop of Pakistani writers.
We do, yeah.
In the last 5-10 years, we've had some great writers.
Yeah, I think in the little longer, about last 20 years or so, we've really kind of had a very strong lineup.
Some very young.
Yeah. Some very young. Yeah, a lot of them, in fact, when they started were very young. You know, someone like Kamala Shamsi, straight out of college, or maybe in college. Even Mohsin Hamid, when he started, was pretty young.
Yeah. Is that where you went to college, England?
I was in college in England.
Where?
I was at a place called the University of Kent.
Ah, okay. Yes. And how long were you there?
I was there 3 years.
And then went back for work?
And then I moved back, sort of couple of years, well, more than a couple of years now. I moved back when the situation in terms of my job over here, in terms of counterterrorism, was a bit dicey.
Yeah.
So I was, it was recommended that I should sort of go off the scene for a while. So I went and worked in England again, in London, for about 5 years.
Brilliant. You miss it?
It's a different life. I enjoyed that. I enjoy this. Just two different sort of existences.
Yeah. Don't get your chili chips there.
Well, I used to have mine flown in. Yeah.
Yeah, flown in.
And I was a lot more productive there in terms of writing.
Okay. Some more songs, Gulnar. If you're still listening, that's Survivor. That's going out to Umar's son Suleiman. I hadn't heard that one, but I remember this one.
It's a good one.
It's a good one, my friend. Pumps you up. But you know what, Umar? It was great. It was great having you on the show.
It's fantastic being here.
And it was great fun. And I hope Djokovic wins. And I hope Djokovic wins. A great choice, my friend. I mean, the book is coming out next week.
It's out next week. Yeah.
Betrayal. Yeah. And after this, are you going to take a break for a while, or you'll?
No, I've started work on a book after this as well. Yeah.
Already?
Yeah.
Oh, so the stock of chili chips are already there?
I'm going through a lean patch right now, so laying off the chili chips. But I think once the engines start revving, I'll be hitting the chili chips pretty hard.
Omar Shahid Hamid was on Retro 89 talking about his new book Betrayal, which should be out next week. Dope. Go pick it up. It should be a cracker. Omar, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I can't wait to have you again.
Would love to come back.
Super. Folks, I'm going to see you, of course, next Sunday back on Retro 89. Same time, 7 to 9 p.m. Until we meet again, have a super week. I am going to leave you with some George Benson. Hasta la vista.